people don't leave jobs, people leave bad bosses. Go into it without the mindset of what can I get from them or what can they do for me, but go into it the mindset of I truly want to know this person and get to know them. Your answers to your solutions are usually not in the room you're sitting in.
People aren't asking enough great questions. And they said there's a concept called the unknown unknown.
Kind of a responsibility. It's kind of a responsibility to be involved in, your city, local, community, and politics. Um, so many people complain about what's going on, but then when, the rubber meets the road, they don't want to get involved. And you can't change things unless you get involved. So I'm pretty passionate about civics as a responsibility that we all should bear. And maybe if more people bared some of that responsibility, um, our society would look just a little different.
Yes, and what better way to serve than to serve locally and then
Uh,
go, well, what does it take to actually make something happen in my town, in my city, in my community?
yes. It's so funny that you say that because when the presidential elections happen, yes, they are a big deal, but I have lived in a city where um, a city has changed the next day from an election, not for the better. Um, but change, like you said, really happens at the local level. Like big change happens in small places. And so while we see administration changes at the presidency level, where you can make the most impact is within your city, county, state. And I just think those local agencies get overlooked in the power and change that can happen there.
Yes, they can. And it's probably the weirdest time ever to do this was right before the pandemic, because you were the last person that was seen doing everything the old way. And then all of a sudden, when I saw the city council person that won in Louisville, Colorado, go, wait a minute, now I'm in a bunch of state and national meetings all the time about this whole new thing called the pandemic. And we're getting new information
Mhm.
by the minute, the hour, the day, the week. And her entire term was not what she expected it would be, but guaranteed she figured out what it was like to serve
Mhm.
in a
Yes.
fantastic way. And I think that's what you're signing up for is I don't know what I'm signing up for. It's the unknown, but it's like for the public good. And what does that mean?
Yeah.
And maybe that's kind of an interesting parallel into today's podcast recording.
Right. Wherever you want to go, everything's open for me.
Yeah. The only thing that I don't know how much we went over is what is the purpose or the legacy of the nonprofit that you would want to mention later?
Mm. So we talked about this a little bit, and my the legacy that I want to leave behind is knowledge. And so for what we talked about last week was right now kind of what I offer is that business owner that doesn't know how to really understand their financials, their business, what works, what doesn't. Um, I take on a pro bono client each quarter and help give them the tools to do that with the criteria that they are invested in truly understanding. Um, and I think the bigger overarching topic in that is knowledge, being able to give people knowledge that are actually going to go do something with it. That's kind of big, but
Yeah,
we could dumb it down however we need to, or bring it a
sure.
little smaller, however we need to.
Fantastic. Yeah, for each person, it's different.
Hmm.
Since it's a sales podcast, we can talk about stories of what it's like to figure these things out along the way.
Hmm.
And I don't have a specific time in mind. We'll know when it's done. I'll kind of have this wrap up question, which asks about the purpose and all those things. Is there anything that you want me to specifically ask you?
No, I'm very excited for the conversation. I left our conversation last week and I told my husband I had this amazing, very intriguing conversation that came out of left field. So I'm just looking forward to having a conversation with a new connection.
Fantastic. Where do things begin for you on your road? I mean, this is a story about sales, but it's also a story about life. And things don't always curve the way that we want. But where does all this begin for you?
Or right, I mean, where I'm sitting right now, I would say it began with growing a career that I thought I wanted and really enjoyed. It took a little bit of a turn when I changed positions within that company, and not loving the position that I took on and not loving the travel that I took on, which forced a deep conversation with my husband in rebalancing my life and what I truly wanted. And in the moment, I mean, the blunt question was, if you didn't have the financial responsibilities, if you didn't have the responsibility of being the breadwinner, if you had the freedom to do whatever you wanted, what would you be doing? And it caught me off guard because it was clear in that moment that he could see that I was not fully happy and that I was putting my identity into my career and into the growth of my career and into a business and not into the things that are going to be here in 30 years, into my deep morals and values. And those um those spaces were getting wider and wider as I kept growing in my career. And so I sat on that for a little bit and I came back to the table and I it started with a big dream that I spoke out loud of just saying, I think I want to go back into the finance realm, working with small business owners, educating them on how to not only read their financials, but understand what's going on in them so they can make educated decisions. And so I left that career, very cush salary, the security of knowing my mortgage is going to get paid, my kids can continue doing the activities that they've become accustomed to doing, um, shopping at the stores that we were accustomed to shopping at, to I can do this on my own and I can do this. It's going to be a lot of work. So I would really say that that conversation with my husband, who could see what I couldn't see in the moment, is where the story began.
So, what do you mean by things that are going to be valuable and meaningful 30 years out? And the, I wouldn't call it maybe the moral dilemma, but you were looking at things from the perspective of, I'm making choices here. Am I okay with these choices?
Mhm.
So, what were some of those choices?
Yeah, the first, I would say that this conversation happened very shortly after a weekend, that we have 3 kids, so we're just and they range from 6 to 12, so we're in a very busy season with activities and things like that. But it came after a weekend where my daughter had a dance event. I had a half marathon that I had been training for 12 weeks for,
Hmm.
and my husband's birthday. And due to things that were going on in the business, I missed all 3 of them. And so this conversation came after that. And going deeper into the conversation, I started to look back on the last 6 to 12 months, and I looked through my calendar. I still keep a written calendar. So I started looking back on this, as a very analytical person. Like, how much have I said no to? Like, you're just giving me this information at face value. Yes, I said no to this weekend, but and I started going through that and it was very convicting in like the amount of things that I was saying no to with my kids, the lack of time that I was spending investing into my marriage, into the things that I was saying no to myself. And I am a faithful woman. I grew up in the church, grew up attending church, very, very much start my day off with devotionals or in the Bible. And I found that over that previous few months, it was very erratic. We were going to church, but we were going through the motions. And I was saying that, I put my trust in the Lord, but I'm not moving through life in that way. And so my words and actions did not align. And so the root of all of what I was saying no to was first and foremost the Lord, and secondly my family and what my kids were going to say and think about mom 30 years from now.
Wow. Wow. You just went deep.
I,
I
I did.
I know the feeling of going to church religiously, going
Mhm,
because you're checking the box, or you're like, we're believers. We do go.
mhm,
But man, sometimes it gets called into question when you look at what's going on and go, am I living the fruit?
mhm.
Do others see that I'm acting out the faith and they believe it? Or am I just going, but I don't look like a believer at all? And it's as if you want the true test is people just know.
Mhm.
They're not looking for the attendance. They're looking for the relationship. And you looking at your marriage and your kids and what's important to you, you're going, oh, this is the relationship piece. So it starts off in the day of the daily devotional. It's a conversation with God. And it takes time for people to get to know what that really means if they don't know what it means. And it took me until I was like 45 years old to really know what the heck that even meant. And still I'm figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I'm still learning, and I have a very solid support system. I mean, over my professional career and as I grew through the ranks, you start to see you 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 attract people and not always for the right reasons, right? They're looking at what can they get from you or who can they get connected through you. And the people that really have insight into my real personal world, the people that I'm breaking bread with, the people that um I'm calling because I'm crying in a corner. Like those people are very strong people in the fact that they are amazing hype people. When things are good, they are cheering me on, making sure I'm also not, floating off the ground, but also in the times where I need a little bit of a gut punch in, Cash, you are a great person and you are a faithful woman, but you're not walking the walk, right? You're talking the talk, but you are not walking the walk. And the way you're moving doesn't align with the things that you're saying. And so the people that I have very carefully chosen as my circle are people that will be very transparent, convicting when I need it, but also very graceful and compassionate. They have those hard conversations in a way to not, demean me or make me feel less than, but hold me accountable to who I am and who I say I am.
And that's with a group of trusted circle of trust people
Mhm,
that know you, that can speak into your life. And as we think about the audience of salespeople and professionals going, well, I'm walking into a circle of no trust or distrust
mhm,
because I'm the new person and they don't know yet and like me, certainly trust them. What are some of the things that you've found either helpful or maybe not helpful as you've gone on your own to drum up business, build a business, and have clients just go, wow, can you help me? Rather than the just following up messages that keep
mhm.
happening.
Yeah. I would say the best piece of advice that I got and then put into practice and have truly seen the fruits of is build intentional relationships. When you are networking or rubbing shoulders with people, go into it without the mindset of what can I get from them or what can they do for me, but go into it the mindset of I truly want to know this person and get to know them. I don't just refer anyone. I also don't just sell to anyone. And same, like the people around me don't just sell me. They have a true relationship with me. They've built the trust with me. And so when they refer me, it is a true representation of the relationship that's built because being referred by someone is not only a representation of me, it is a representation of them. And so if I go into that from a sales perspective, trying to drum up business with this referral, if I am just a complete a hole, it is a representation on that person that referred me, right? They're going to go back to that person and say, I don't know what you see in her, but she is a terrible person, a terrible businesswoman. And so when you build relationships, these people become your sales and marketing team, not because they're trying to sell or pitch you, but because they know who you are and they know that you're going to take care of the people that they send to you. So relationship is so important, and the transaction is the benefactor of those relationships.
So many people that I speak with say their greatest source of leads is referrals. And yet, when they look at their business, they go, I can't survive on just this. I need to have growth of net new people that don't even know about who I am. I need to have the ability to have that first conversation, build the trust, and make things happen. And I don't know what your experience has been. Usually, when there's a referral, you have about an 80-ish close rate percentage. Now,
Mhm.
it could be a lot higher depending on the industry, or even lower, just because of the context of the situation. But if it's not a referral, it's just totally net new. You're looking at this from the perspective of, oh, wow, what is this going to be? A zero? It's going to be 100?
Mhm.
It's remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. So being in the finance realm, my firm does everything from bookkeeping to fractional CFO work, which every business needs. So we're doing the day-to-day, we're doing the strategic planning, we're working with the CPA to ensure that each quarter you're prepared for taxes and not at the end of the year getting this large tax bill that you weren't expecting. But yes, to your point, my referral close rate is 93%. So of all referrals that have been sent to me, 93% of them have closed. And that 7% that hasn't closed isn't because they weren't willing, it's just they're just not ready yet. We're planting the seed. And so there's still a possibility there. There are business owners that are doing their own books right now and haven't quite figured out their time has value, um and also letting go some of that trust and someone else can do this and they can do it just as well as I can. But to your point, the cold leads that find me through through social media or through Google or the other channels that they may find me, that close rate is is a lot lower due to the fact there's no relational connection. So when they come on, I'm having to not only build trust with them because finances is a very emotional um, piece of the business. I'm not only having to build trust with them, but I'm also having to pitch value. And when someone refers me, they're already pitching both of those because of the relationship that is there.
Yes, because they can say, here's where I was before I,
Hmm.
and here's where I am now. And if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have heard those hard things that I needed to hear.
Hmm.
And probably should have started with her years ago. But the reality was, this is where I am now. And then they speak into that person's life and go, or business and go, kind of seems like you're maybe in a similar spot. And they have a conversation. And when the referring person says, yeah, I kind of think you should at least have a conversation,
Mhm.
then things are warmed up. There's a guy that I got referred to last week, and we'll call him David. And the person that referred me, we'll call him Paul. Paul's like, hey, I work with David. He is a good man and he deserves your help.
Mhm.
And they had their own internal conversation. And one is a fractional CFO, which is kind of funny. And then the other person is a healthcare provider. And when it got to talking about the price and the program, I basically said, well, you're a referral and you're coming from Paul. And he's like, and Paul's my fractional CFO, so he knows what I can afford anyway. I was like, all right, let's start you off with the referral program, circle of trust rate,
Mhm.
where we already know that you're a great client to work with based upon Paul saying David is a great person. And then the truth and the proof ends up bearing its fruit over time. I don't know what the next 3 months, 6 months, a year is going to look like with this person. The referring person I've worked with for probably 13, 14 months.
Mhm.
And I need to realize I don't know how long I need to be on the road with this gentleman to help him, but I need to help him on that road as long as the path goes.
Mhm.
That's my honor to serve him.
Yeah. And you have to wear it as that. You have to understand that you are wearing that as an honor. But you made a really you made like a very made me laugh a little bit that you're working with another fractional CFO. I think those relationships are also so valuable, and not necessarily a fractional CFO, but looking at what you do and finding those people that do the same thing, because personalities are different, techniques are different. Um, and when you can create, some of my best referral partners are other fractional CFOs, because our personalities are very different and I'm not everyone's cup of tea. That's totally okay. And you have to understand as a business owner that I will be great for some people and I won't be the best fit for some people, and both are totally okay. But when you have those relationships with others and you look at them more as a partnership or a referral partnership, there is so much fruit there in being able to look at a potential client or getting in with a client and realizing you do need this help. We are not a good fit, and that's totally okay. But as your fractional CFO, it is my responsibility to not leave you here high and dry. So here's someone that I can refer you to. And if you feel like that's a good fit, I will help transition this over. And you can relate that to really any industry or position within a business, right? You work with salespeople, and salespeople are different. Men and women sell very differently. Um, Different generations sell differently, and that's totally okay. Those techniques work in different situations. But when you come across someone that maybe not jiving with you, being able to refer to someone else that you trust in that realm of what you do is so valuable. But I think a lot of times in business, we look at this as competition, as, well, I can't be friends with this fractional CFO. We're both vying for the same client. There is more than enough business out there. I don't care what you do. There's more than enough business for us all to succeed and live the lives that we want to live and run the businesses we want to run.
That knowledge of the harvest is bigger than any of us individually, and that there are opportunities to store up things to share with each other, which is a referral.
Mhm.
I remember being new in a sales job and the company had zero pipeline. And I'm like, oh, wow. So this is going to be nuts. I'm just going to call a bunch of people. And I created a list, started to call a bunch of people. And then one of them did something completely different than us. And it came to my mind that we should probably meet them when we do some travels. And we met them in Boston. And I looked at the guy and I said, we might find a project for you that we just can't do. And you might find one for us that we just can't do. If you see anything like this is what we're really good at. Like, what should I be looking out for you? And he's like, this is our ideal project. They're hard to find. And this is what we want. About 2 months later, I got a phone call from the guy, and he's like, you wouldn't believe it. I found someone in Missouri that's looking for a manufacturing contractor, and they want to talk to you. So we have them fly in, we do the intro, have the meeting, and it works out to be that it's like a $1.3 million deal. It came right out of the sky.
Mhm.
He didn't need to give it to us at all. He could have just said, I don't know, and just been quiet. But there was something about the meeting that we had that the intention was felt by the other person.
Mhm.
And then we're feeling it's the right thing for us to be looking out for them. We may
Mhm.
never find that deal for them, but unless we're looking and we're open to it, we're not really serving. And I think that's the essence of what you're talking about is people will know who you are by speaking with you and not about the
Mhm.
product. The product is incidental. It's assumed that the product is good, but the question is the person behind it great?
Mhm. I totally agree with that. And I think even taking that a step further, you being a lifelong learner, I'm a lifelong learner. um, Being a lifelong learner, when I have smarter people around me, that is such an asset. And so these other fractional CFOs that I have brought into my orbit, when I'm stuck on something or, just like this is the way I've always done it, I have found myself getting on the call with them and saying, help me be creative here. Like, there's got to be another way. There's got to be an easier way. Or I help me get outside of this box and vice versa. We're the kind of group that we have created. We're multi-generational. There's men and women, and you see the differences in that and the collaboration there in that genuine, yeah, genuine collaboration. And I'm not trying to poach on you. We can both be successful, but I can also learn from you and be a better fractional CFO because of that.
That's a missing piece in today's businesses in a way that people aren't afraid to know that they're not the expert in the room. And it's okay to just say, all right, what do we have as options here that are really potentials? Like, let's just think about this for a minute. Like, for your instance, you got the tax code book, which has got a little bit of hype to it.
Mhm.
It's there because it gives people optionality. And you're trying to go, I don't know what options we should be thinking about here. And then
Mhm.
everyone can weigh in with, all right, I have a question about this. And the answer to that might completely drive a different option. And no one knows. And I ran a digital marketing agency at the beginning of the pandemic, which I had no business doing. And I couldn't find any employees because it was the beginning of the pandemic and everyone was on lockdown.
Mhm.
And there weren't really jobs. And it was weird. And I found a professor at the University of Colorado where I had done a pitch presentation. And he shared with me a book of resumes of great digital marketing talent folks. And I brought them in and they were curious. They asked all these great questions. And I said, Mark, what about this thing called the SWOT analysis from business school? We think it's missing something. I'm like, well, what do you think it's missing? They're like, well, we don't want to poke fun or be mean or anything, but uncertainties don't really get covered in the uncertainties bucket all that well. and people aren't asking enough great questions. And they said there's a concept called the unknown unknown. And unless you have creative capabilities and extreme curiosity, you won't ask the unknown unknown questions and envision what those are. I'm like, wow, you guys are brilliant. But you don't know unless you surround yourself with, to your words, multi generations of people
Mhm.
that will have the perspective of, well, this is what we did in our time, in our era, in this situation.
Yeah, it's super powerful to it builds a lot of credibility. It also builds a lot of trust when you can stand in a room as a leader, whether it's the top of the totem pole, somewhere in the middle, or you're just overseeing one or two individuals. But when you can be in any sort of leadership position and confidently say, I don't know, that is so powerful. And so often I've been a victim of this and not perfect at it, but so often our ego steps in and we feel like we have to have an answer or we have to have, something to provide them with to maintain credibility or to not to not lose this, yeah, rapport with them. And I would also say, to your point in like surrounding yourself with creative people or asking questions, one of the most valuable lessons I learned while being in the corporate world is your answers to your solutions are usually not in the room you're sitting in. And I say that in terms of I've sat at a lot of board tables, been in a lot of board meetings or high level meetings. The answer did not come from those people, highly intelligent people, in their own respects, but those answers didn't come from that table. A lot of times they came from those leaders going and asking people on the floor. We worked in manufacturing. And so going down and asking the people that are running the machines or running the products or loading the trucks, like, we see this problem. How do we fix it? And we had already had, a list of things that we could do that we felt like were going to be the solution, but we're not the operators. In asking those people, they gave us a whole nother list, but they gave it through the perspective of this is what we have to do. Like, did you think about, for example, when you're working in manufacturing, did you think about that you had to get this pallet of 900-pound powder up 10 feet into a hopper, right? We're just thinking, we're thinking big picture, not getting granular. And so when you go have those questions with the people that are actually going to do the work, you get even, and again, that's the personal piece of this and building relationships, because now not only do you have this creative avenue to run down, you have buy-in from people. When you go to implement something, they are going to be willing to change, because as people, we don't like change in general. And so they're going to be willing to make these changes because they feel like they were a part of the decision. So big piece in this is relationship goes so far beyond that networking, but in everything that you do within the business realm.
It's beautiful that you said that. I remember getting hired as a hardware software product manager at a big tech company that was an offshoot of Hewlett Packard, and they had technology to track people, places, and things with GPS.
Mhm.
And it was really great for long haul truckers and short haul. And when they gave me all the systems and they showed me all the steps to set it up, they were like, step one, do this. And they kept going through it. And it was like step nine. I'm like, wait a minute. Our customers have to go through all these steps. They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, what happens if you mess one up? They're like, well, then you get into trouble and you have to call support and we have to start all over.
Mhm.
Hmm. I wonder how they feel about this. So I went out there and I asked them, hey, what happens to you when you get frustrated with this stuff? Oh, we don't use it. We wish we could drive over it, but we basically just ignore it. And it was a
Mhm.
major safety issue. And it could mean a long haul trucker not logging their hours for the day and drive too long and then completely drive over a bunch of families and destroy lives. And I looked at that. I was like, hey, engineers, hmm, what if this was just 0 steps? And it could mean the difference between life and death. And what if you all could have $10,000 each for fixing this? And what would you do with that money? And as I sequenced that through and I figured out what each person would do with the money, they made the connection in their heads. My life is valuable. My purpose is valuable, but so are our clients and customers and everyone that's on the road that's affected. And the way we design our product is wrong because we did it from the inside of the building. 9 steps are valid, but what if it just could be 1, 2, or 3? And they're like, oh, wow. And then the next Monday morning, an engineer, I'll call this guy Lee. Lee walks in. He's like, I made a 0 step process. All we have to do is sync this once and you never have to do it again. And it all works beautifully. And he's like, it's existing tech. It works with iOS, Android, whatever is out there. And it's like, buddy, you just saved the company and lots of lives. And we can patent this and turn around and license it. Or just go, let's keep innovating. And they got the spirit back because they lost their innovative spirit.
Mhm.
Because they just got stuck in the 9 steps program.
Mhm. Yeah. I love what you said about like the money piece of it because I feel like leaders, we look at things monetarily. I mean, we kind of hyper focus on the monetary. Like if we get these people to minimize or eliminate steps, or if we get more efficient in production or whatever the case may be, then we'll just reward them with money. And when you start talking to the different generations, and this is why it's so important to bring them into these conversations, when you start talking to the different generations, not all generations are monetarily motivated. They're motivated by knowing that they had a purpose, right? Extra money is always good, but when you look at companies that have low to no turnover, or you look at companies that have culture that other companies want to repeat, they're not the highest paid employees. They are the highest paid in terms of how they're treated relationally. They are the highest paid in terms of the conversations that they get to be a part of or the contributions that they get to make. And so if leaders could look beyond that dollar, I think it would change so much in terms of retention rates um and productivity.
Wow. It's fascinating that you mentioned that because it's been something that I saw in one person at I joined a scaling your business organization, like a big
Mhm,
mastermind that was out of Florida. And to get into this scaling program, you got to pay for the membership for the year and all the people you're going to work with. And it was a $15,000 opt-in, and they had higher ticket programs. But when the founder talked about his number one assistant, he said everyone in the industry wants her, and they offer her all this money and all these things, and they don't realize that it's really how I treat her and what she
mhm,
gets to do here versus what she'll have to do elsewhere. He said she's never going to leave me because of just the benefits of what she has. He realized it wasn't about the money, but the others didn't. They just thought, oh, we just need to offer her more. And to a certain extent, she probably just laughed and said, why would I ever leave this? It's not about those other things.
mhm. Yeah, it's powerful. How you treat people matters. And I mean, there's a saying out there, I'm gonna butcher it a little bit, but people don't leave jobs, people leave bad bosses or bad leadership. And there was an article in the New York Times a couple years ago about, I believe it was a tech company, that they paid their employees, every employee, didn't matter where you sat on the totem pole, what you did for the company. Everyone was paid, I think it was 70,000, it might have been 90,000, but they found this sweet spot of this was the amount of money that people could live comfortably, do the things that they wanted to do, live the lives that they wanted to live. They weren't lavish, but they there was no, these people were happy. And then when they looked at their retention rate, these people had been, most of them had been with the company from inception. It was a younger company. I think it was like 5 or 7 years old. But these employees had been with the company almost from inception, and their retention rate was almost 100% because um, no one felt like they were undervalued. There was not this talk about like, well, he's doing 90% of the work and getting 10% of the salary. He's doing 10% of the work, getting 90% of the salary. They all knew that they were making the same amount. They were all contributing, equally, or what they felt was equal for their role. And the culture that they had created. So again, it came down to not the money side of it, but how they were treated.
And that's a great segue into your purpose and your legacy that you live out right now. What is that way that you treat others, that purpose, the legacy, the cause that currently is on your mind of how you treat others?
Yeah. So when I opened up the accounting firm, I've always been, I would say, philanthropy has always been important to me, and giving back to my local community has always been very important to me. And so when I opened up the firm, I wanted to give back in a way, and we weren't doing high amounts of revenue, and so there wasn't a dollar amount that I could give back or, agree to give back into an organization or the community. And so I sat down and brainstormed, like, how can I help my local community or local business owners with education? That's kind of where it started, like education. And my husband actually was the one that helped me come up with it, because there's so many business owners here that, jumped into it because they thought entrepreneurship was going to be fun and easy. And you and me are both laughing because find me an entrepreneur that is having fun every day and says it's easy, and I will find you $1 million 5 minutes later. Um, but he's the one that kind of brought it to me. And there's so many entrepreneurs here that don't have the tools to succeed. And so I started going down this rabbit hole of how many businesses start and fail. And the percentages there are astronomical. And a lot of it comes down to the fact that they don't have the tools they need. They go into it with this mindset of like, I can do this. It's not that hard. And so I agreed with myself to bring on a client every quarter pro bono and really teach them not only how to read their financials, but how to analyze them and make sound, educated decisions on them. And what I mean by that is, um, not all revenue is good revenue. Not all revenue we should say yes to, and breaking that down for those business owners so that they can see what revenue really works for them, whether it be high margin, high volume, and what revenue maybe we should say no to make room for the revenue that does work for them. And same thing with their expenses. As business owners, and I harp on marketing a little bit, but as business owners, we feel like we need to get our name out there. We need to get our branding out there. And we tend to throw dollars at marketing just to say, I marketed this month, or I got my business out there this month. And sitting down with business owners and saying, look, this marketing is very valuable. You've got a 10x return on it. Keep throwing dollars there. But this revenue, or this expense for marketing, is showing no ROI. Sometimes it's costing you more than it's really showing on the P&L. And so analyzing that and helping them make educated decisions in this is a bad expense. Let's either keep that money in the business or allocate it somewhere that's actually going to work for you. And the biggest thing that I see with business owners is they say, Cash, I am making great top line revenue. There is no cash in the bank. And having those conversations in cash flow and profit are two different things. And so each quarter I take on a local client that needs tools in their toolbox to be able to run their business successfully. And I don't just take on any, I actually don't market this. So if you're a business owner, I don't just say like, tell me if you need the help, but I really lead with the heart. Most of the clients that have come to me have been, they've happened in conversations that they weren't expecting anything. One thing leads to another, and I'm just kind of led by higher powers and kind of know that they're meant to be. But they're also business owners that have to be invested. I'm not just taking you on to give you free services and free education. You have to be able to take those services and education and do something with it in your business. And ultimately, my hope and expectation is that they will then pass that on to someone else in some way, whether it be something that they learned in business that they can pass down, but really this pass it forward kind of idea.
What a gift to share that with other business owners that
Mhm.
need that support. Thank you for sharing everything that you did with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to the Close with One podcast. Today we have Kash Rocheleau sharing with us some amazing secrets from the space of how to manage the referral process. In her experience, up to 93% of people that come in as referrals just naturally say yes. Wouldn't it be nice if we had more of those? In today's conversation, Cash shares some of the crazy moments in her life where she had to all of a sudden stop things that were going and learn what to start. Today, we're talking about stopping and starting key things that make you a better salesperson, trusted earlier in the conversation, and invited to be a lifelong partner for a business. Welcome to the show, Cash.
Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. So that's the recording.
Awesome. That was so fun. I hope that it helps uh, business owners and people new in their career in some fashion to maybe not make the same mistakes I did.
No doubt people will learn things from that and soak in things from the story to go, oh, I kind of feel like she did then. And it gives people confidence about, what to do. And
Mhm,
I love that you went into the faith piece.
mhm.
Everyone goes to their area of comfort and you felt vulnerable to share that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me. We would love to know what I can do to support you and who you're looking for and who I can send your way and support you.
Okay. Typically what I do as a thank you for each guest is we just chat for another maybe 10-15 minutes, get into a little bit more about who your ideal clients are, your world, and then I can share a little bit about that. You get to share, hey, this is what we're doing for the year that we're excited about, or maybe we're struggling with, or we wish we had a person for. And then the conversation naturally flows from there.
Okay, awesome.
How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay. Let's open up calendars really fast. It doesn't help that I closed all my calendars. That's funny. All right, I'll just open up my phone. Let's see. Probably should look to next week just because this one is like exhausted.
That's
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
Okay, you done?
Yes, 1 second.
We have to leave in 6 minutes, Mark. We don't have time.
Okay.
6 minutes.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Please just whatever you're doing.
What about the 11th, which is, or even the 4th at noon Central?
All right, let's see. The 4th. The 4th at noon Central would be 11 Mountain. I could do, could you do 12:15?
12:15 Central?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so I'll just change today's and move it to there.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna open it up, duplicate it, change the time to the 4th, and then 12:15 Central. Is that what we said?
Mhm.
That sounds about right. Okay. I just sent it to you. Can you look that it actually looks right on your end?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see it. Perfect.
Oh, and I did it for way too much time. I can I'll shorten
That's
it.
okay. That's okay. I see it on there. Um, that's perfect. I have it would be 1 o'clock Central. So I have, from our start, I have 45 minutes. So
Okay. All right. Oh,
awesome.
great. I just updated it just in case. Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Kash, for sharing your story, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Bye.